Hi there, welcome to another edition of Freeworld Heads Up on Monday the 1st of August. Myself and Sanjoy with you as usual. And there's been a little bit of movement on the currency this week, isn't there?
Yeah, there's some activity. The background has been this, when is the USA interest rate going to go up? We've had a couple of fainting movements at it without striking. And last week we had some kind of weak USA data, weak sort of consumer data, and the euro and the pound both went up a little bit. Today we've had some bad manufacturing confidence figures in the UK, so the pound definitely looks like it's on the back foot. And then coming up to this, of course, will be the Bank of England meeting on Thursday, where everybody expects, what is everybody? 2 out of 47 economists polled by Bloomberg expect the interest rate to go down, which means if it doesn't, it'll go up quite a bit. There's more money riding on shorts against GBP than there has been since 1992. So there's a lot of bets on this figure, and sometimes you get that strange thing where I guess the bet is really on 0.25. So cut from 0.5% to 0.25%. If something else happens, like maybe nothing, or maybe 0.1, then you might see the pound increase, because it's definitely weighed down by this expected outcome on Thursday.
Okay.
That's it. We also had some stress tests on European banks. The oldest bank in the world, Monte dei Paschi, which I've seen actually. It's because it's not far from Florence, in Siena. There's some stress tests, so it's just a kind of what if situation, what if this happens, what if that happens. This is the only bank which would have collapsed in this scenario. Okay. So Europeans quite happy about that, because there's been a lot of talk about Deutsche Bank and all this.
We were discussing Deutsche last week as well.
Yeah. So at the moment, all those cans have been kicked down the road, and the euro's looking firmer, particularly in contrast with the dollar.
Okay.
So that's it for the currency. Any news on hazels?
So kind of the latest news is the crop's slightly ahead of schedule. So we're looking about a week earlier shipments than expected.
Okay.
So that'll be probably towards the end of August that we'll see the first shipments.
Okay.
2/3 of the way through August. There's been no official Exporters Union figure published yet, so farmers are still.
I believe they can't produce a figure, is it?
But I think they're still going to do it despite what the government has said. So farmers are still relying on the Agricultural Ministry's official figures from earlier in July, which were putting the crop around 480,000 tonnes, which is significantly lower than the 580,000 tonnes from the last unofficial export union's figure at the end of July.
Okay.
So
it's like a game of call my bluff.
Exactly.
Really.
So pricing has remained firm, and it's very unlikely we see any kind of downward movement before, I would say, 3 or 4 weeks into the first new crop shipment. So maybe towards the end of September we might see some weakening in hazelnut pricing, but certainly not before then. And there's been a bit of news on almonds.
Almonds certainly seem to have picked up off the bottom. There's a market which is you can call the primary market, which is basically the views of growers in California. Then there's a secondary market, which is where European in particular, but also Chinese, Indian speculators try and outguess the market. They try and guess the trajectory. Well, they've been pushing and trying to sell lower than the growers in America. And last week, this is in the background, is of course that it's holiday time in Europe, and the market was drifting. But over the weekend, we seem to have seen about 5 cents go on the cheapest kinds of almonds, standard 5s. And whilst non-puree never came down, the spread was had got to about 90 cents. Looks like the gap is going to close by the cheaper ones getting not so cheap. And I think we've seen. Well, I think we've seen the bottom for the standard 5s and the Cal SSRs, etc. So maybe time to get in before everybody else pours in once they're back from holiday.
Right.
We're seeing also some activity in cashew. There's been a lot of American buying recently, which has kind of ratcheted the price up. That's been a process that's been going on about 3 weeks, and now there seems to be a slightly that trajectory of price increases is now getting a little bit steeper.
Okay.
We're hearing stories of Chinese buyers entering the market, and when these guys get stuck in, one buyer might buy from one shipper maybe 20-30 containers, so it tends to put the very firm base to the market. Let's see whether demand can swallow this huge increase, but so it may not work out, may go down as well. So we don't really know, but there's definitely a push upwards there.
Okay.
Similarly with pine nuts, we're now reaching a very high level of speculation on the corianthus. None of these are really supply side. None of these are demand-led changes, right? It's not as if suddenly everybody's eating a lot more pine nuts or eating a lot more cashew. These are all supply side things, including the hazels. And I think it's a bit of a wake-up call for those people who feel that the pound is desperately undervalued, and that somehow or other the world's commodities will have to come down to be competitive again in terms of sterling. That's unlikely to happen.
We're beginning to realise we're just a little fish in a very big pond.
Yeah, that's right. That's the problem. We're a vociferous fish. Anyway, so the only one that might be steady because of this is Brazil's, which is a very UK type demand.
Yeah.
And possibly in vine fruits. The UK is an exceptional consumer of vine fruits, and of course currants almost go entirely to the UK. So these two will be probably a little bit down in the mouth compared to everybody else. As far as the nuts go, we're coming into, as I say, the Chinese buyers are in for the Chinese New Year. Indian buyers are in for Diwali, which is early November, and pretty soon we'll see cold weather demand start to creep in from Russia and from the whole of the northern hemisphere. So in the face of, there's a few articles about a sort of price war developing with supermarkets. Morrison's has said it's going to cut the prices of 80 kVI known value items, things like milk, bread, butter. So we're sort of getting caught in a bit of a pincer movement here. Supermarkets don't want to hear anything about price increases, and a lot of commodities are quite, due to their own supply side hysteria, are quite firm. So where do we go from here? Well, as usual, I don't know.
I think also as well, if you tune in later in the week as well, we'll have a walnut video put together that will be showing kind of various grades of walnuts.
Yeah, the new crop Chilean stuff is landing here. We've got a big US crop coming, but that usually tends to arrive a little bit later in the year. For the Christmas demand, etc., it's going to be Chilean walnuts, I think, and we'll be going through the various grades that we can offer you due to a trading arrangement that we have of various types. So we'll be producing a market report, well, more a sort of information about what the different kind of kernels look like and what may represent good value for money.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Sanjoy, and thank you.